very good morning to you. Welcome to Lifestyle Friday. It's another beautiful Friday where we are able to get together and have conversations that affect our lives and how we live. Gender-based violence, that's what's on the plate today. That's what we want to delve into and look at issues relating to gender-based violence. What is it? Why is it happening? You know, one of the things we have seen arising during this COVID-19 pandemic season is a lot of domestic violence, and violence basically geared towards women. And the sad reality is that we live in a society where we see things like this and we keep quiet. We don't say anything about it. You know, sometimes even when such cases are reported, nothing much is done. That needs to change, because we need to stand up and we need to come against gender-based violence in whatever form, shape or size it appears. And you know, there are also men who are taken through abuse, and we have to talk about this thing. So this morning on Lifestyle Friday, we will have a conversation about gender-based violence. I have an amazing lady who will be joining us in studio shortly via Zoom to give us insights into this whole discussion. Recently, we had the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence from November the 25th, I think, until December the 10th. We'll get to talk a bit about that as well and find out what that was all about. I'm inviting you to be a part of this conversation, share your thoughts about this whole topic, and also share your experiences if this is something you have seen happening in the family, in the community, or if you've been a victim of this. We would love to hear from you. 20316 is the SMS line, and the WhatsApp number is 0786 316 316. It is a wonderful morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is James Okumu. This morning, Lifestyle Friday, we are focusing on gender-based violence. That's what's on the table today, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a fruitful discussion even as we get into this whole issue. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I hosted a lady who shared a graphic story of what she had undergone under the hands of her brutal husband, who tried to kill her and to kill their two babies. The man ended up committing suicide, and it was just one of those stories you listen to and you wonder what was happening. Didn't anybody see this coming? And we need to be able to start talking about these issues. Sometimes we are so afraid to talk about these issues when they're happening in our family, and so hence this conversation. This morning, I'm joined by human rights specialist Josephine Martibo. Josephine, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
I'm very fine. Good to see you. You have a very colorful place there.
Thank you. I love color.
It's looking nice. It's looking nice. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, just recently, I saw quite a bit in our local dailies and online about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What was that all about?
Yes. The 16 days of activism against gender-based violence happens on November 25th to 10th of December every year. It is a campaign, an international campaign that challenges violence, you know, gender-based violence. So it happens for a period of 16 days, and during that time, state and non-state actors come together to speak out, to, you know, run the international campaign in different places, from the communities to the institutions, globally. So we all come together to take part in this international campaign. And in the middle, it's somewhere in those days also, we have the International Day of Persons Living with Disabilities,
yes,
who are also really affected by gender-based violence. So this year's theme was Orange the World, Fund, Respond, Prevent and Collect. We're talking about funding organizations and initiatives to prevent gender-based violence. We're talking about responding to gender-based violence in the sense that we are responding to the needs of the survivors.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about preventing violence against women and girls and everyone in general. And lastly, we were talking about collecting data that we are going to use, especially now during the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
The rise in GBV was really high. So we are collecting the data so that we can be able to use it when we are planning, as even we move into the new normal, as we get to adapt to it, yes.
Okay. You mentioned something about this COVID-19 pandemic season and how the cases of GBV went on a rise. Why was that the case?
Well, COVID-19, the pandemic is something that caught all of us unawares.
Yeah.
And immediately it happened, there were a lot of restrictions. So in the restrictions, the one where we had the lockdown, most people got themselves are stuck in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
They stay at home. People were stuck in the same place with their perpetrators.
Yeah.
So when you're in the same place with the perpetrator, you can't move, then the rates of violence go up. People lost their jobs, people lost their livelihoods. So there was so much emotional violence going on. There was physical violence because of the stress. There was, economic violence. So, I mean, it's just like everyone lost it. And, the rise just went up because everyone was dealing with their own things. So that is the best explanation I can give.
Okay. Let's backtrack a bit. Let's define, when we talk about gender-based violence, what exactly are we talking about?
When we talk about gender-based violence, we are talking about any harmful act that is directed at an individual based on their gender. And when we talk about gender here, we are talking about a social construction. People hear the word gender and immediately think women.
Yeah.
So when we talk about gender, we are talking about a social construction of what defines masculinity or femininity. When we were girls growing up, we were told, girls are supposed to be in the kitchen, you need to, be cleaning the house, you need to live a certain way. Boys were told, they can play the rowdy games, they can do certain kinds of things. So because of that, then when a woman is found, doing the opposite of what is defined as femininity, then it now becomes a problem. So, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, that's what I can say, that, violence is directed at you because you're doing things that are not feminine or masculine.
Okay. When we hear that word gender-based violence, for many of us, or maybe for me, the first thing that comes to mind is domestic violence. And the first picture that I have in mind is this crazy man who's abusing his wife. So what other areas does gender-based violence manifest in?
Gender-based violence comes in many forms, but there are four main types. So the first one is the one you said, physical violence, the one where there's the slapping, there's the kicking, there is, burning a spouse, stabbing them. That is the most common one that we know. And then we have psychological violence. This is the blackmail. This is the emotional violence. Someone keeping quiet, they're not talking to you, you don't know what you've done, So there's someone just having a lot of mood swings, they're blackmailing you. Maybe a child is being defiled and they're being told, if you tell this to anyone, I won't pay your school fees. Then we have economic violence. This is the one where, you can have a spouse who will sabotage your way of, making a living. Or, they'll stop you from going to work. They'll be like, no, you're not working. You have to stay home and take care of the children or something of the sort.
Yeah.
And then we also have sexual violence, which is also very prevalent. It's what we know. Rape, defilement, sexual assault, sexual harassment, the catcalling. Sometimes, you're just walking in the street and, people are just trying to catcall you. I mean, that is a form of violence. Yeah. So those are the four main types of gender-based violence.
You say that when I remember a friend of mine had posted something on social media last week. She was taking her morning jog, and as she was running, somebody decided to touch her butt. And she said she stopped and slapped this man. And this man was so shocked. He didn't know what had just happened. And the lady said, I just continued running. And I thought, do we still have people in this day and age who do those things? I mean, to me, it looks and sounds so crude. Why would you do that?
I know. We do actually have this kind of people. And, because it's been normalized. It's been normalized that, when you see a woman and she looks good, you can just, but no, you cannot.
Yes.
Because that is violence and it is a crime.
Very true, very true. I've always wondered as well, Josephine, when it's issues of gender-based violence, especially on the home front, why is it that the victims sometimes want to hold on for so long until you hear somebody died? because I believe there are telltale signs and warning signs that things are headed south. So I always wonder, why do people hang on? Why do people stay on for so long? Why is it sometimes that people hardly speak out until it's a bit too late?
Well, my answer to that would be that going back to the definition of gender, we are talking about we've been socialized to operate in a certain manner. So, for example, I'll speak from the woman perspective because let me speak from something that, you know, I relate with.
Yes.
For example, a woman, you've been told when you get into a marriage, you have to hold on. Yeah. You know, mwanamke ni kuvumilia, so, you know, that kind of statement, and you're told you can't leave your marriage, you have to stay there, you know, you have to cover the nakedness of everything that is happening in the marriage.
Yes.
So, I mean, you stay. And there's so much stigma for a woman then who leaves a marriage or, you know, walks out of it because of any kind of abuse. So, you know, you're just holding on. You're just like, you know what, I'm going to seek this out. I'm going to do this. But, you know, the violence always escalates. Because, you know, you're also just showing resilience of, you know, I can take this, I can take this. And the perpetrator is seeing that, you know, this one is just fine. So it gives them an opportunity for them to do more and more, continue gaslighting you, continue abusing you, continue slapping you because, you know, but nowadays now we have options. There are safe houses, there are shelters, there are toll-free lines. So, you know, because people are speaking out, the international campaign is working. So people know that they can be able to get help.
Okay.
And not staying in a marriage or, you know, staying in a situation where there's violence does not bring you any kind of honor.
Yeah. Very true.
Because it only brings destruction to your health, to your mental health, to your physical health. And yeah, it really doesn't, I mean, you end up losing in the end. So yeah.
Okay. Are there some telltale signs or some warning signs that someone can be able to look at and see this is not headed in the right direction? If there are, what are some of them?
Telltale signs. Well, I can begin by saying that we can have, okay, let me just start with extremely jealous. You can find someone is extremely jealous.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, your phone rings and they want to know, you know, who is calling or, you know, where are you going? You know, that kind of possessiveness, that, first of all, is just a danger sign. Then a bad temper.
Ooh.
You know, you're just having someone who is having a bad day. You don't even know, you know, you're trying to figure out, like, you know, what was happening in your day and all these things. Someone just comes and punches the wall. So, you know, just breaks the window because they're angry. That is a dangerous sign.
Okay.
Another sign we can say is verbal abuse. So someone will just, you know, just start with really just the small insults and they continue growing. And they continue growing and they become more deeper and, you know. Then we can talk about controlling behavior. So, for example, you go to work when we're talking about economic violence. So you go to work, you get your paycheck, and, you know, someone wants to control every coin. No, they're like, I want to see your M-Pesa statement. I want to see your M-Pesa balance. This 100, you bought credit 2 times today. Who are you talking to? So, I mean, those are danger signs. Then we also have victim blaming.
Okay.
You know, someone will tell you, you know, I slapped you because of the way you talk. So, you know, they gaslight you, and gaslighting is whereby someone tells you things that make you feel like you're the one who is on the wrong.
Yes.
So they're constantly just telling you, you know, if you didn't talk to me like that, if you didn't act like that, if you didn't wear that dress, I wouldn't have been angry. So, you know, you start feeling guilty. You're like, okay, maybe I need to change my fashion. I need to change how I speak. And maybe there's really nothing wrong that you do. So those are some of the danger signs.
Wow. Look what you made me do. I've had that quite a bit.
What?
I'm saying I've had people say that quite a bit, where you become violent and then you're telling this other person, look at what you've made me do. It's almost like the blame is theirs and not yours. I'm just, that is just distorted. It is just weird and distorted. I'm wondering, just looking at society, you know, society, we are wired in particular ways. I'm just trying to look at our children and the next generation, and I'm just wondering, are there some things we can begin to do now to change some of the stereotypes and some of the ways society has been wired, so that by the time our children are growing up to become adults and to become parents as well, that they will have a different mindset towards this whole issue of gender-based violence?
Well, I think a lot can be done because charity begins at home. So I look at it from the sense that it needs to start at the individual level.
Okay.
People who we have grown up in this society, we are able to speak out. Now, no one is making you do things that you don't want to do. You're able to, thank God for technology. You're able to report. You're able to get information. You're able to seek assistance. So it starts at the individual place. Starts with self, loving yourself, knowing that, as a human being, and according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you're born free and you're born equal. So you are, you can enjoy your rights, you can enjoy your freedoms and equal opportunities without anyone making you feel like, you're a woman or, you're a man, you can't do this, you can't do that. So there's that sense of freedom. So when it starts at the individual level, we're able to take it on to the next generation. When we start raising our children, parenting them in this kind of society, there's nothing that the boys can't do that the girls can't do. So it's giving them equal opportunities. There's nothing like maths is just for the boys. Let the girls, do the sciences, do the math. Let the boys do the home science. Let them, let everyone just do whatever that is that, makes them happy without making each other feel that, this is just for this particular person. It's for boys and it's for girls.
Okay.
Then even moving on to institutions, whereby let women also take the leadership positions. Let there be opportunities for everyone, so that it's not in our heads that the president, for example, can only just be a man. We've seen women presidents. But, is there an equal playing field that, these women can actually put themselves out there and state their case? So it starts with changing our mindsets, starting from the individual level, taking it to the family, then moving to the community, then moving to the institutions, and then it's just going to go global from there.
Okay. Now, shortly, we'll talk about what the effects of gender-based violence on the victims, and also check out some of the responses that are coming. You're watching Lifestyle Friday on Family TV and listening to us via Radio 316. We are talking about gender-based violence. If you have an experience you want to share or a question you want to ask, maybe you're going through something and you're wondering, can this be classified as gender-based violence? Feel free to ask your questions on 20316. WhatsApp 0786 316 316. This morning we are hanging out with human rights specialist Josephine Martibo via Zoom, and she's giving us more information about gender-based violence. I'm just wondering, before we talk about the impact on the victims, back to the signs, because sometimes you have people who are dating, and some of these signs are there, but because we are so in love, you tend to ignore some of these signs, especially bouts of anger and statements like, look at what you made me do. What would you say concerning those who are dating and they begin to see some of these telltale signs?
Thank you, Pastor James. So what I would say about that, indeed, love is blind. So, when you love someone, you really don't want to believe that, they would harm you. We love people because we know they're going to treat us right. We're going to treat them right. So, you don't want to think the worst about your person. But like I said, it starts from self-love. Even the Bible, Proverbs 4 verse 23 says, above all else, guard your heart because it is the wellspring of life. So you can't give something that you don't have. You can't want to give someone peace and you don't have it on the inside. You can't give love if you don't have it for yourself. So my thinking for that would be that, we can't get in love into a place that is affecting us. We want to fix other people, yes, yet we are broken on the inside. So for me, I would just say that, take the signs, look at the signs, because once you tolerate them, then the perpetrator knows, and from there it escalates.
Very true.
It's never, it never changes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would just advise for, self-love first, love yourself, know what you want for yourself before you're able to engage into a relationship that, will probably just kill you in the end. I don't know.
Very true, very true. Another question here is saying, I'm wondering, is there an effort to bring our men into this conversation, even as lobbying is being done concerning this issue, given that they are the ones who can train their sons, their brothers, and the male fraternity on how to treat women with dignity and respect?
For that, I would say there has been actually a really tremendous effort on male involvement in the fight against gender-based violence, because men are actually now starting to come out. One thing boys were told or are told growing up is that men don't cry. Like don't show your tears, don't look vulnerable. So like we've found most of them are suffering from emotional violence because they are just burning on the inside. You can't go sit and tell your boys that, you guys, I was slapped yesterday. Your boys would probably start laughing at you. So like we've gotten men who are now coming out and they're saying this and this is what is happening to me. I need help.
Okay.
So we need more of those men champions of change to come and to be able to just make other men, boys understand that it is okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to speak about what you're going through, to be able to mentor the next generation so that we are leaving no one behind. Violence is not only for women. Men are also going through the most, and we need to actually put that into consideration even when we are coming up with campaigns.
Very true. What are the effects on the people who are victims of gender-based violence?
I'll talk about, first of all, ill health. Because ill health comes from, all the types we've spoken about. Someone would be beaten, someone will be, they'll be maimed with a panga. And, this can lead to disability. Someone will be banned. So, there's just ill health. And sometimes you end up also from the emotional violence, you end up suffering like post-traumatic stress disorder, something that never leaves you. So you have to be on medication day in, day out, so your health deteriorates. Then another thing I can talk about being an impact of gender-based violence is unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases. Because you'd find that, people are raped, they are defiled, there's infidelity in relationships. So, you're being the good woman or, you're being the good man. And, you end up just getting all these diseases from, places that you didn't even know where they came from. So this leads to a lot of psychological trauma. Thank God that now, with the mental health task force and, all the awareness being made about mental health, people have started to take up therapy. People are going for therapy. People are going to, see psychiatrists, talk about what they're going through. We have a lot of counselors, telecounselors, if you don't want, to actually go to the actual clinic. So, psychological trauma is also an impact. Another thing is low self-esteem. Once you've gone through violence, your esteem just goes down. And this is something that, you don't have confidence, you don't want to appear, you're stigmatized, you're humiliated. And the last thing I would say is the most dangerous impact of GBV is death. Because sometimes you stay, and then, someone will actually, they always tell you, I'll kill you. One day I'm going to just take this panga and I'm going to cut your head. And actually they cut your head and you're dead.
Wow.
So that is, that is the end game of GBV. The most dangerous one, if I would say.
Wow. I'm just wondering what the laws of the country say about this, because I remember once hearing a story of this guy who was being physically abused by his wife. And he went to the police station to report. And the policeman told him, I think you deserve that. If your wife can beat you, hata sisi hatuwezi kusaidia, and they kind of made a joke out of it. And so I'm just wondering, are there laws in place, and what does the law say about this kind of issues?
We have many laws in Kenya. And first, just starting with our Constitution of Kenya, 2010, Article 27, talks about equality and freedom from discrimination.
Yes.
This is just that everyone is equal before the law, everyone deserves equal treatment, and no one is going to be discriminated on the basis of their gender, their sex, their religion, their conscience, so disability. No one is supposed to be discriminated. So if right now we're actually having polycare. Polycare is a concept that has come up in the National Police Service. They are no longer the National Police Force. They are National Police Service.
Okay.
So the polycare concept is one where it's going to be a one-stop shop in a police station. So a police station is going to have the reporting desk. It's going to have the forensics room where the DNA is going to be taken. It's going to have a place where the survivors can shower. It's going to have a place where there are going to be, a legal team that's going to be sitting there. They're also working with, different organizations to be able to get, shelter. So, I mean, when you go to a police station, you don't expect that kind of treatment that you've received before. So this is what the National Police Service is doing. It's a very great initiative, and we hope that it's going to roll out in all the 47 counties so that we'll all feel safe going to the police station and, just reporting our cases and having them followed through, investigated until justice is served.
I think one of the concerns I usually have, and I think I speak for quite a number of Kenyans, is that many times we hear things about like now what you've just said about the police and all these things they are putting in place. And our hopes are uplifted, but now on the ground, when we go back to the ground, it seems like that was just for media publicity and it was just on paper, because on the ground, the attitudes are still the same, the treatments are still the same. And so we keep wondering, will things ever change?
Things will change. Like I said, it starts with us as individuals.
Yes.
It has to start with me as Josie. It has to start with you. The attitude change, the change of mindset has to start with me. Why are we looking at, will whoever do their job? What are you doing, first of all, for yourself? Are you speaking out? Are you making life better for the person next to you?
The reason why I'm saying that is sometimes I feel like the victim doesn't have a voice because the perpetrator of the violence has an upper hand. Maybe they are more economically stable, and so I mean, you hear cases of somebody went to the police to report, and the thing was the thing was recorded, but the perpetrator, because they have connections, they went and paid some money, and this thing just disappeared. And so sometimes it feels like the victims doesn't really have a safe space where they can open up and share and they find justice. And so because that is not readily available, then it becomes an issue of, if this happens, why should I even tell anybody? Who will help me? I'd rather just keep quiet. It's just now me and Jehovah my God. Kama nitakufa, nitakufa. And so when you have a lot of people who have that kind of mentality, how do you change that if things on the outside are not seeming to change?
Okay, so I would say this is the reason why there's so many campaigns. This is why we had the 16 days of activism.
Yes.
Where we are having an international campaign on challenging, gender-based violence. We want people to speak out. We want people to, as soon as you spot the violence, stop it in your own personal capacity. This is why the initiatives as the national GBV hotline, where, it's a toll-free line. You just get a phone, call, the person on the end of the phone is going to help you from whatever place you are. All you need to do is call. They don't need to know your name. They'll be able to help you according to the information that you give. And this is why there's so many initiatives that are now rolling out. For example, the polycare concept that I've talked about. If you have a one-stop shop in a police station, that will make you as a victim or a survivor feel much better, because you don't have to move from the police station to go to a hospital, to go to forensics, you have everything in one place. So there are all these initiatives that are coming up, but all I would say is that also it requires positivity from our own end. Let us be able to do public education. Let's let people know that these hotlines are there. that there is help out here, there are gender recovery centers, there are safe shelters, there are safe homes, so that, survivors are not feeling that, I'll never get justice.
Yeah.
Justice will be served, but we have to keep on encouraging each other.
Okay. I'm just wondering, as we try and create awareness, are you also working with schools, religious organizations? Because I'm thinking there are all these institutions where a lot of us gather, all of us go through schools, all of us go through colleges and universities, all of us have some sort of religious affiliation that we have, whether it's the churches or the mosques or the temples. Are you also working hand in hand with, is there work going on hand in hand with these institutions to create awareness?
One thing I'm going to say is that the efforts from the state and non-state actors, they are taking a multi-sectoral approach where everyone is involved. So, like you're saying, we're bringing in the religious, the religious bodies.
Yeah.
We are bringing in the schools. We are bringing in the principals. We are bringing in the police. We are bringing in the people from the judiciary. So it's a multi-sectoral approach, so that even when decisions are being made on initiatives or campaigns in moving forward, everyone's voice is heard. Because there are people then who will go to school, but they don't go to church.
Yeah.
But so is the information being shared in the church and in the school the same?
Yes.
So it is a whole multi-sectoral approach where we have everyone involved, from the chief to the nyumba kumi, like everyone is working together, because we have seen the increase, especially during the COVID pandemic. We've seen the increase in GBV.
Yes. So
everyone has to get involved in a personal capacity, family level, community, institutions, then we can move globally. So everyone is involved.
Okay. Earlier on, you talked about helpline numbers where people can find help. Maybe you can tell us more about that. And I'm also thinking for that individual who witnesses. Maybe I have a neighbor, and every other night they are just throwing sufurias around the house and doing all manner of things. And I'm thinking, what can I do? Or maybe in my neighborhood I see this child and they're consistently under abuse. Is there anything I can do? Because sometimes we have this attitude, that is not my home. I will not put my nose in other people's business. So what can I do?
Yeah. So we have the National Gender-Based Violence Hotline, which is 1195, toll-free line.
Yes.
So you can call, and the person at the end of the call will be able to assist you. If it's medical, if it's legal advice you need, if it's telecounseling, they'll be able to help you from whatever place you are. All you need to do is give details of what type of violence, where you are. It's anonymous. No one will have to know your name. And you can be able to call, even for your neighbor. For example, the campaign that we have going on for children in the country is called Spot It, Stop It.
Yes.
So once you spot anything that is unusual in the neighbor's house, it's unusual at the office, you're able to call these numbers and you're able to get help. All you need to do is give the information of the area, just say what is happening, and no one is going to come back and find you. So it's mostly individual responsibility. We need to stop this mentality of, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah.
Uko si kwangu, like we need to be each other's keepers.
Okay.
So I just feel like, when you feel like something is not going on well, there are opportunities and there are places, there are these helplines that are anonymous that you can call and you can be able to report.
What about because just looking at this whole conversation and also the campaigns that are going around, a lot of attention is on the victims. What about the perpetrators of this violence? What about those who come to the realization that I have a problem? Are there, is there a framework for them to also find help without condemnation and without all this? Because there are those who come to the realization that, enyewe, I have anger management issues, or enyewe, I'm reacting like this because things happened to me when I was growing up. This is all I know. This is what I saw at home. And so I'm just replicating what I saw at home. But after this has happened, I feel so guilty, but I don't know how to change. Is there help for those kinds of people?
There is help for perpetrators. Because, I mean, like you've said, some people just are violent, or, you know, they're able to project violence because that is the life they've known. They lived in, you know, houses that, you know, they grew up in houses that it was so chaotic, so much was going on. So that is the only way they know how to live life. And sometimes it's not something that they want to do. They just find themselves projecting. And like I was talking about the mental health task force, and even as they're working towards, you know, bringing out public awareness on therapy, like, you know, going for counseling, having rehabilitation programs for people who have been perpetrators of violence, so that, you know, they'll also feel accepted. Sometimes, you know, it's just something that, you know, came into their lives, and that is what they were projecting. So when they're able to go through therapy, they're able to go through their emotions, they're able to talk about what happened. Because sometimes when you have something on the inside, then it continues to grow, it builds a lot of resentment, and that is what makes you sick. Then you realize when you start offloading, when you start rehabilitation programs, having support groups, sitting with people who have also been, you know, the perpetrators of GBV, listening to their stories, you come to realize that I am not in this fight alone, and we want to recover. We are going to hold each other's hands. Mentorship, training, public education, just letting them know there is a space for you in the world. There is a space for you in society. Just because you did this, you don't need to be banished. So, I mean, rehabilitation programs are there. I would advise for therapy. It works. And joining support groups, because I know they're there. So, yeah.
What about the children who are exposed to GBV? I remember hosting a lady on this very show, and this is a couple of months ago, and she was talking about how her husband just turned on her one day, you know, and he cut her, I think, was it 16 or 26 times? He cut the children. I mean, his agenda was to kill the wife and their 2 children and then kill himself. But he didn't succeed in killing the wife and the children, but he eventually took his own life. But the children went through so much trauma, and the lady was telling me, I think it's taken them 3 years of counseling to get to where they were by the time I was interviewing them. So I'm just wondering, is there anything for the children who are exposed? They may not be the actual victims of the violence, but they're exposed to it, so it affects them. Are there institutions that are working with this kind of children?
So to that, my answer would be, first of all, like when we're talking about, you know, the linkages and working together, collaborating and working as one team towards ending gender-based violence. So for the children, I know that most of them, the violence is, first of all, identified by the teachers in the schools. So most of the time you'll find as a parent, you're always being called to school. They're like, no, your daughter did this, your daughter is a bully, your son beat up someone, you know. So the teachers are always able to identify that something is not right, because that is where then the child spends most of the time. And a good initiative, you know, with the schools is that, you know, now, I mean, schools have guidance and counseling teachers. And, you know, with all the campaigns that we're doing, even for children, for ending violence against children, when we're talking about spot it, stop it, we're able to, as teachers, we're able as neighbors, we're able as family, you know, sisters, brothers, to be able to look out for these children. So at least one thing I know is that the teachers are really doing a good job with the guidance and counseling in school, because they're able to have conversations with these children. They have been trained. So they know how to get the information out of them. And from that, they're able to start having conversations, letting them speak out, you know, reporting the cases, and just getting these children right back on track. Letting them know that this is not your fault. You have nothing to do with this, but you have your whole life ahead of you. And we're here to help you and walk the journey with you. Feel safe in this space.
Well, Josephine, thank you so much for your time. Our time is almost up, but I want to hear your closing remarks even as we wrap up our conversation for today.
Thank you so much for having me. GBV, I mean, just ending gender-based violence is one of the things that I hold really close to my heart. And I would just urge all of you and everyone listening in today, take individual responsibility.
Yes.
Don't wait for anyone else to do it. Love yourself. Like I said, the Bible has told us, above all else, guard your heart. Let's love one another as we love ourselves. So just the way you wouldn't want it done to you, don't do it to anyone else.
Right.
And be a champion of change. Speak out.
Awesome.
Spot it, stop it.
Stop it.
Thank you.
Spot it, stop it. I love that. Josephine, thank you. Thank you for finding the time to talk to us today. I believe your information has been able to help somebody.
Thank you.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for Lifestyle Friday today, but we have time for one more thing, because remember, always we also talk about our mental health, and we do this on our segment with Professor Ndete. So here's Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. A very good morning to you. Welcome to another episode of Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. Today we kick off a brand new series. We want to look at narcissistic personality disorder and find out what is it, and how do you know somebody who has this disorder, and is there a cure for it? So without getting into so many things, Professor Ndete is here with us again. Professor, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for finding the time to be with us again. Karibu sana. Now, narcissistic personality disorder. Can you begin by explaining to us what this disorder is? It has got such a hard name.
Yeah. What I decided to do was to use indicators or symptoms that were not created by me. That was created by the American Psychiatric Association.
Okay.
And these are the criteria that are used the world over. So they are not mine. This is what is taught globally. Every medical student, every psychiatrist, every person who is interested in these things, this is what is referred to. So we are talking at that level.
Okay.
What I do know for sure is that they are so correct. We see these conditions every day in our lives. And I am sure as we go through these criteria, many people will say, either it's me, I've got that problem. That is if they are humble enough to admit they have a problem. But they will also say, I know so many people with this problem.
Yes.
In this way. So it is, I hope what we can achieve today is that it will help us. It will help individuals to recognize the problem in themselves and maybe some questioning themselves or in other people, and find a way of, if possible, their friends to talk to them. And of course, sometimes when you are dealing with a personality disorder, if the person has a personality disorder, more often than not, they do not know that they have this problem.
Yes.
And they become very defensive when you tell them that this problem. So as we go, I want the listeners to know these are not the case criteria. These are also criteria.
Okay.
I think that's important.
Let's get into it.
Yes. So if I have decided to be what I am, a teacher.
Yeah.
And just to take the people through this, is projected on their screens if they want to see. A personality disorder, if I may start by defining a personality disorder, is, and there are several of them, and today we're only talking about one type of personality disorder, but a personality disorder is a condition that you find in people that kind of defines who they are. There are certain ways in which we behave, which people will know. That is, say, let me take myself as an example.
Yeah.
That is the way the tail behaves. That is the way James, who is posting us, is behaving. That's the way so and so behaves. So these are the traits that characterize who we are in terms of our behaviors. So when we are talking about a narcissistic personality disorder, is a pervasive. It is a way this person behaves and is part of his life.
Okay.
Is part of his life, and in this particular case, these people tend to have what we know grandiosity about themselves. Grandiosity about themselves is the way they behave, and we know that's the way they behave. And I'm sure viewers will know very many people with this kind of behavior. It's kind of a fantasy or even behavior. Fantasy is the way they think about themselves or the way they behave. These are the guys who need to be admired for various reasons, the way they dress, the way they talk. And I see it even, even as sometimes when I have time to watch, even presenters like you.
Yes.
And you see them having this kind of mannerism. If I may take off my glasses, they are talking to you and they roll their eyes like this. And when I ask about these things, they say, well, this is the way you want to impress people. The way, and they tend to have no empathy for other people.
Wow.
As long as as long as those people do not really appreciate who they harm out of their behavior, they just ignore them. So if you know a person like this and you try to talk to them about their behavior and they are not interested in you, or they think you are not good enough up to their standards, then that is they will say that is your problem. And it begins early in life, very early in life, maybe in high school or even much earlier. It tends to be pervasive, as I say, go on for a long, long time, and sometimes don't even bother to change them. And in his presentation, it can take very many different forms in terms of the context. And the American Psychiatric Association, which brings together psychiatrists or American psychiatrists and psychologists, they have said it's so common that, but you don't need all the criteria. Okay. Just need about 5 of these for you to make this diagnosis.
Well, that's all the time we have for Food for Thought today. I hope that our conversations are beneficial to you. Give us some feedback on 20316, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. Are you connecting with some of the things that we are talking about? Because the purpose of this segment is to give us information on matters of mental health. Until next week, have yourselves a great weekend.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.